guys, we're in Google Drawing 5 today, and today we're going to be working on color. So I'm going to be teaching you a little bit about gradients, a little bit about transparencies, and then we're also going to be working on fine-tuning our skills with the Polyline Tool. And even if we're not great with it, I'm going to show you how you can use edit points to fix some of your mistakes. So don't look at this and think it's going to be super hard. It may be a little time consuming, but I think by the end of the video, you should be able to have a couple new skills added to your repertoire. So this should be a pretty easy assignment for you. All right, so we're going to look at drill 1. So I'm going to zoom in. Scroll up to the top. So drill 1, we're going to be making a butterfly. And pretty much in the directions, I just say, using the skills you've learned thus far, recreate this shape. So we did a walkthrough yesterday in class on color, but if you were absent, or maybe if you're on homebound or something, you weren't here for that walkthrough. So I'm going to explain how to draw this, but at the same time, I'm going to be covering the stuff that I mentioned in that walkthrough. So just pay attention and you'll learn a little bit about gradients on drill 1. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use these flowchart delay shapes for my wings. So now if I wanted, I could put this on top of it, rotate it. Now I will say, if I go up to transparent, I can see through that shape. So that way I know I'm making it exactly the same size. So let's see here. Now it doesn't have to be exact, but that's a pretty neat trick where you can change a shape transparent so you can see through it. And once you've done that, we can copy and paste it, drag it on top of itself, which is hard to do when it's transparent, but it's okay. And then we can just right click and say rotate, flip horizontally. We can kind of drag that over to the other side. Now, I'm going to kind of rush through these. These don't have to be exactly perfect. Copy and paste that again, drag it down, rotate it so that we're getting close to the original. Paste it, and I will once again flip horizontally, drag it over to the other side. And then if I want, I can kind of hold shift, select those 4 shapes, and drag them over. So that way I know I've got my wings kind of set up the same way. All right, next I'm going to draw the body. So I'm just going to make an oval shape. All right, so that's relatively close to the same size. So we'll drag it over. And then for the head, I just went super simple. I did have a kid yesterday trying to draw a circle, 2 circles for the eyes. So please remember when you go to draw this that you actually have a smiley face icon. So we can just draw a smiley face on top of it. All right, so we've got everything created for our butterfly, but now we're going to talk about our gradients. So I've got the head of the butterfly currently selected, and we have our tilted paint can icon, the fill color button. And normally, we have our like 80 basic colors here that we could choose from, but you'll notice up at the top that these are solid colors, but we also have a tab for gradient colors. And gradients are just where they kind of mix a couple colors together. So we can look at this and see like they've got some reds, they've got some oranges, some yellows, some greens, blues, and so on. So I think for this first one, I just chose a light red. I think that's what I did. And I think I did that for the body as well. So gradient, light red. Now, on the wings, once again, you can go to gradient. And for the top set of wings, I think I did a light green pattern. And that just pretty much mixes like a white and a green together. Now we could, if we wanted to, go back to gradient and say custom. And right now that lighter pattern's in the center of that flowchart delay shape. If we wanted, we could say like top left, and you'll notice how now the left wing doesn't match the right wing because we've kind of got the shape coming in. Now I said top left, but you'll notice that on mine it's on the right because we rotated, or not rotated, but we flipped that shape. So it's on the top right, even though we said top left. So things like that can happen. It's just one of those workarounds that you've got to kind of get used to. Now I'm just going to switch it back because I want them to match up. So now to do the bottom wings, I think on these I did gradients that were like light purple, I think. I believe that matches up, so we'll just do that again. All right, so drill one, real simple. You were showing me that you could use the gradients. Now, I told the kids in class if you wanted to use different gradients, that was fine, but you just had to make sure that when you chose your colors for the butterfly that I had some type of gradient. So please remember that for drill one. All right, let's go scroll down and look at drill 2. So drill 2 is a Pokeball from Pokemon. If we look at it, we can see that there's some gradients applied to this as well. But it looks like a simple shape, but we had some trouble yesterday with some kids, hence the reason I'm making the video today. I tried to cover some of it in the walkthrough yesterday, but some people either didn't pay attention or didn't follow along. So to make the Pokeball, you have to utilize the pie shape instead of just a circle. Well, I guess technically we could start with a circle if we wanted. So I'll make a circle. And let's make this the bottom circle. So we'll start out with white. We may switch that color in a minute. But to do a half circle up at the top that's red, we're going to go to our shapes button, find shapes, and we're going to go down to this pie button. Now this pie button looks like it's showing 3/4 of a pie, but as we've learned many times this semester is, some of these shapes have yellow diamonds. So if we click on it, we can rotate a shape. So I'm going to rotate this around, and then I'm going to still kind of resize it a little bit to get it to look similar. So you'll notice that this has a line that's straight, kind of goes towards the middle, and then this also goes towards the middle. But on here, it's kind of curved, it's not jaggedy. So to do that, I just kind of traced over it with a curved line. So I kind of didn't start at the edge, went to the middle, clicked, didn't go to the edge, get it relatively close. Oh, I forgot to double click. So when you do that, we can go back to our select tool. We can click on it, and we can change the thickness of this. I think I went all the way on the thickness to 24. So that gets it close to the edge. So now we can kind of manipulate it a little bit, drag it over. Do that move. All right. So we may have to manipulate it just a tad. And sometimes if it's not working the way I want it, I'll even go back and select my circle and make it just a touch smaller so that it looks a little better. Now on this one, I told the kids it doesn't have to be exactly perfect right now because we're just still in that learning process. Maybe I do want that a little bigger. All right, so it's relatively similar. You'll notice like over here on the right edge, I do have a little piece hanging out, but I had that hanging out on the original as well. All right, so I'm going to click on my pie piece, and I'm going to go up to my fill color button, apply gradient. Now this one, I think I did a dark red. Oh, that doesn't look the same, so I must have chosen a different one. That's a little better. All right, and then for the bottom, I think I did a gradient, but I think I chose a gray with white radial in the, yeah, okay. So that looks good. Next, I'm just going to add a basic circle. Hold the shift key down, kind of put this in the middle. I don't want it that way. We're just going to make it solid black. And then we're going to put a little white circle in the middle that does have a gray, not a gray, has another white radial gradient. So let me go back to shapes, select my oval, hold shift down, draw a circle, get it in the middle, go back to fill color, gradient, and once again choose that white radial gradient. All right, so in just a couple minutes there, we were able to recreate our Pokeball pretty decently. All right, so let's go down to drill 3. Drill 3, some people struggled with yesterday because we're recreating this monkey, and there were a lot of different things that we were adding. So as we progress through this drawing unit, the shapes are going to get a little bit more complicated, and sometimes we're going to have to rely on some of our skills to create the shapes because they're not always there for us. So sometimes it's just better to look at this and try to figure out some of the shapes. So we're going to start with kind of the head shape. Now, this shape does not exist. If you go through here, there's not really any of those shapes that resemble that. So to make the shape, we have to go to our line button and choose curve. Now we could, if we wanted, kind of trace this out if we wanted to make it exactly the same size. It really doesn't have to be that way, because I'll show you a little technique here in a second. All right, so that does not match perfectly, but if we select it, we can, one, kind of resize it, make it about the same width, but you can always right click and go down to edit points. So when you have edit points selected, this allows us to click on our little dots and we can manipulate. Now it's hard to see through it, so we're going to try that transparency trick again. So this allows us to kind of see through where we want our dots to be. All right, so we'll notice that this goes way down below his chin. So I've got those dots probably in the wrong spot. So we're going to drag these up and over a little bit to kind of manipulate this around. All right. So this is relatively close. So we should be able to go to our fill color button, choose our little brown color, and now we can just drag that off to the side. All right. So I like to start sometimes at the back and kind of work my way forwards. So I think the backmost shape were actually the ears. Now for the ears, I do believe I just used ovals when I originally drew these. So we'll kind of select an oval, drag it over. We can do that transparency trick again if we want it to be exact. And then we can change the color. Oh, that's not the color I used. I think I did light yellow. No? What color did I use? Light yellow 3. That's what I used. All right, so now we'll drag it over, but it's on the front. So we're going to right click, go to order and say send to back. Then we will not do that part yet. We're going to add the ear part. So we're going to go back to our curve. And now this part, it doesn't have to be exact. I just kind of went in around pattern. So as long as you've got some of this, I'm going to give you full credit. Doesn't have to match up exactly to the way mine did. All right, so now I know the other day I showed you this, but you may have forgotten. If you have a shape selected, hold the shift key down, select like the oval. We can group these shapes together so that now when we move it, the inner ear is still like attached. So we're gonna go order, send to back, send the ear behind. But I'm also gonna copy and paste it and flip it horizontally, drag it over to the other side. And once again, go to order, send it back to send it behind the head. All right, so we've got that portion of the face done. Now, before we do the chin and stuff, we've got this little section for the eyes. And I saw some people yesterday trying to kind of do ovals, and I didn't use an oval because if we had ovals, you would see kind of a line for the ovals in between his glasses and his nose. So because there's no line there, that kind of was a hint that I didn't use ovals as the shape. Now, for the shape for like his around his eyes and his cheeks, I just used a heart. So went like this and went to fill color and chose that light yellow color. Now, it doesn't matter that that goes down because we're going to hide that here in a minute with an oval, which we can go ahead and do right now. All right, so we're going to color that same light yellow 3. And by doing that, we can now see that we're starting to get a similar appearance in our monkey. Next, I'm going to start with the eyes. So draw out some ovals really quick. Make these white. Draw another oval. Make this one black. I'm going to do that shift select trick to group these. Copy paste. Then flip vertically. Not vertically, horizontally. Sorry, I said that way. All right. Next, let's do the glasses. So the glasses is a polyline shape. So I'm going to kind of start over here, click down towards like the middle of his brow, go up, now I already know I kind of messed up on this, but I'm going to show you how we can fix it. So these are not symmetrical. So once again, go to my selection tool, go to edit points. I can kind of drag this point up, drag this point down, and we can, if we wanted to like match it up, we could kind of play around with it and keep dragging over. So that way we've got like the same kind of spacing on each side. Now I'm not going to be that picky on yours, but if you want to be that picky, I fully understand. I like to do that sometimes. All right, so we're going to change the width. Make that a little thicker like that. And then I'm going to drag this middle one up so it looks like they're touching, because I think I did that on the first one. Now, to be able to see the eyes through this, we have to do another color trick. So I'm going to go up to my fill color and I'm going to go to custom. So this pops up a new dialog box for us. And from here, we have this transparency line. And transparency just allows us to be able to see through a shape to a certain degree. The further left we go through it, the more we can see through it. The further right, the more solid it gets. So I don't really remember exactly where I dragged this to when I did it, but I will let you just kind of pick and choose, and as long as we can see some of the eyeballs through the glasses, I'll give you full credit on it. So I'm going to press OK. We can kind of still see the eyes, so that's perfectly fine for what we're doing right now. I would give you full credit on that. All right, so next we're going to draw the nose, and it'll kind of cover up some of the eyes and the glasses for a second. So we're going to go to our line button, go down to curve. Now I want this to be similar, so I'm going to kind of trace over this. Doesn't have to be exact. Get it relatively close. Drag it out. I click the picture instead of the nose. Click on that nose. Now, did it again. All right, so once we get it in place, we can color it. We're going to stick with that light yellow 3. And then I think I just did some circles for the nostrils. So I made one size. I made one a little bit bigger. I don't really know why I did it that way, but I'll match it up. Change the color of those. All right, so we're getting closer to being done. We're going to use our curve button to kind of do the mouth, and use the curve button to make the chin and color it in. All right, so doesn't look the same, so I'll edit my points a little bit. Drag this over. I've got somebody knocking on my classroom door, so give me just a second. All right, so I'm back, and next we're going to do the eyebrows. I don't want the color on there, so let's just say transparent so that there's no color. And if we want, we can make that a little bit thicker of an eyebrow. We'll copy and paste that, and then we'll flip it horizontally and drag it over to kind of the other side. All right, so next, the last step is to make this little hair thing. So for it, we're going to use our curve tool. I'm just going to kind of trace it. Now this doesn't have to be perfect. You can kind of hear my mouse. I'm clicking a bunch of times, so don't be afraid not to click. Just remember to double click when you get towards the end. Then we can drag it kind of over to the other side. And we will need to fill that in with our brown color, which is dark orange 3. All right, so we're kind of done with the monkey. And now we're down to drill 4. Now drill 4 looks complicated, but we're really just going to be using a lot of our Polyline tool. So to do this, I would probably just pick an area to start. Some people start at the top, some people start at the bottom. And all we're going to do is just kind of trace over each shape. Now, this does not have to be perfect the first time. Give yourself the opportunity to make some mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes. There's too many people that get frustrated when they don't make this perfect the very first time. So I coach tennis as well as teach, and I always try to tell my players you don't have to be perfect, and you won't be perfect when you're first learning a new skill. So just give yourself some patience, give yourself the opportunity to mess up. It's okay to mess up. I attended a meeting one time where they talked about the power of the word yet. So always remember that you may not be a master at something yet, but to give yourself that opportunity to learn it. So I'm already kind of halfway through the face of this. I'm going to cover up the nose here in a second. So I'll have to remember to go back to add the nose near the end. Now remember, this is not perfect, and I'm rushing through it to show you that it doesn't have to be perfect at first. Now it's getting really hard to kind of see some of this stuff, so I'm going to zoom in a little bit more, because I think sometimes when you're drawing some of these shapes, it gets complicated. Definitely if we can't see all the shapes. So, all right, so let's see here. Next, this may be black when I first draw it, so I'm going to have to remember to go back and change that color. All right, getting there. You'll hear a lot of clicking on my mouse because there's a lot of shapes that we got to kind of trace around. So the Polyline Tool is an awesome tool just because it allows us to just keep making little clicks, and it always makes those shapes for us nice and smooth. Now the good thing is I made this symmetrical, so I'm only going to draw one side. All right, so I'm not going to draw this side over on the right yet. And I've got, I forgot to draw the nose. So I think for the nose, I just did a basic shape instead of using the Polyline tool. This may not be the correct shape, but I think it's what I used. I could be wrong, but I think I just did a little trapezoid and made it black, I think. We'll check here in a minute. All right, so I've got the beginnings of that done. Next, I'm just going to go back and use my selection tool to click on each shape and go to edit points and kind of manipulate this just so it takes out the spacing between the lines. So it's a tedious process, but it cleans up the shape and makes it just look a little bit more finished. This is just what I was talking about earlier. It may not look great at first, but after a little while of doing this, you start to improve your skills at it. I think this is the third time I've actually drawn this shape. So I've even gotten a little better and quicker at it myself. All right, so I've got that part of the antler done, and I'm okay with the way it looks. So I'm going to hold Shift and select these different parts of the antler. And I'm going to group that, and I'm going to paste over and flip this horizontally. And then I just have to kind of drag it to where it's right on top of the other one. All right, so that's relatively close. Got a couple things down here I've got to clean up now. So let's see here. Let's go back to edit points. Kind of manipulate this a little bit. You can even make this better looking probably than the one that I drew for you. All right. This does get hard if you're not zoomed in enough, so I may actually zoom in a little bit better just so I can see my points a little bit clearer. So don't be afraid to zoom in to see all of your points. Just have a little patience, and when you get done, you'll probably shock yourself with what you were able to accomplish. So just remember, it doesn't have to be perfect, because with some of these buttons, we can go back and fix a lot of our mistakes. All right, so I've got that side looking relatively decent. All right, let's zoom out and see how that looks. So that looks pretty decent. We can drag the photo underneath it, so that way we can kind of match it up. We have, oh, my nose is upside down. So let me zoom back in. And I will right click and say flip vertically. All right, so it's a little off there. Let me zoom back in. Like I said, once you've done this a couple times, you start critiquing your own style a little bit. And you go, oh, I could fix that. I could fix that. Oh, now I got to fix the bottom there. Got to zoom in again. All right. Still a little thicker than I want it. All right. I think I would be happy with that. So I'm going to take my mouse over it, select it all, right click and say group. Now I can drag all those pieces around to where I want them. All right, guys. So today on our handout, we started out with the butterfly. We were talking about gradient colors. Then we moved over to the Pokeball and Drill 2, where we still practiced our gradient colors, but we also manipulated the shape, the pie shape, by using the yellow diamond trick. When we got down to the monkey, we had to create it using some curves, and I've got someone else at my door, so I think I'll stop the video here. So thanks for watching today, guys.